we're bringing you all you need to succeed in the real estate business. It's Spilling the LT, brought to you by Lawyers Title, telling you what it's really like to work in real estate.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Spilling the LT. My name is Lisa Schulgen, and I'm one of the attorneys at Lawyers Title, and I am thrilled today to have the guest that we have. First, I want to introduce Jeff, who is
Hi, Lisa.
New to the whole podcast world.
Very
So
new.
we're so happy that you're here. So Jeff, introduce yourself and tell us who you brought with us.
I will. I'm Jeff Rader with Lawyers Title, and I'm pleased to have my friend Craig Scheef, who's the founder, CEO, chairman at Texas Security Bank. Craig, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I don't know if you noticed the title of our podcast is Spilling the LT.
Yes, what's that all about?
So it was a new term to me as well that somebody younger told me about. Mm-hmm. Spilling the tea means we're gonna talk about or gossip or get into depth on something. So we are gonna spill some LT.
Craig and I knew that all along.
Well, so there you go. There you go. So let's start spilling some LT.
Let's start with a little history of Craig. Tell me, you weren't a banker when you were born. When did you decide you wanted to be a banker?
Well, that's a good question. I grew up really all over the country until about 1974. My father was a civil engineer, and we moved to Texas because plenty of construction work. I graduated from Plano High School and went to college at regional Division II university in Oklahoma called East Central, go Tigers, and got a degree in marketing. And I knew after I got my degree in marketing, I wanted to get into some type of technical sales. Had done well in business classes in my undergraduate in finance and accounting. And I knew I was going to have to pay for my own master's degree. So I went to the placement office at UNT and saw who was hiring and who had the highest placement rates and good salaries, and latched on to banking because banking is kind of technical sales. And then from there, I went to work for First Interstate Bank, which was the predecessor to what we know now as Wells Fargo in Texas. And I spent about 15 years with that organization, then had an opportunity to go to work for a regional bank that had come into Texas and bought up a number of independent community banks. And then in 2008, embarked on starting a new bank.
And how many employees did you have in 2008?
7.
And how many do you have now?
We have 85, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've really built up a big business. That's wonderful.
Well, when I was working at this regional bank, I fell in love with it because I was dealing with true entrepreneurs, smaller businesses. At my previous job at Wells Fargo, we were dealing with what they call middle market companies, which are companies from 50 to 500. So they're bigger, more sophisticated. They have a CFO that's hired by the owner or the board and a CEO that's hired, and they have business backgrounds. And when I went to work for, I'll just say Bank of Texas, fell in love with it because these banks that they bought, that they asked me to run, were full of businesses that were smaller businesses because these were smaller banks. Mm-hmm. And was shocked to realize that the majority of these entrepreneurs, business owners, if they had a college degree, it usually wasn't in one of the business disciplines like management, accounting, or whatever. And so they were starved for information. And the other thing that I really gained an appreciation for, I had classes in my undergraduate and graduate work that was in economics. And so I understood the concept of entrepreneurship and free enterprise. But to hear their stories really just inspired me of, people sacrificing their wealth, their savings, working incredible hours, taking significant risks, And I felt as a group, they weren't necessarily appreciated. They get demonized when they are successful. So for every business owner that's made it to become, let's say, a top 1%er, which doesn't take much, honestly, in my opinion, there's 10 or 100 that didn't make it. And so the other side of profit is lost. And so people just don't, in my opinion, don't generally appreciate what it takes to create a business. And then you look at what they contribute in terms of, and you touched on it, job. 80% of the job creation in this country comes from new businesses or businesses less than 50 employees.
Yep.
So, and if you were to add up all the taxes that gets paid by these businesses, the people they employ, it's 3/4 to 80% of the tax receipts into the Treasury. So they really are, as Winston Churchill said, the champions of free enterprise really are the strong horse that pulls the whole cart. And so that really is what created the idea for the bank. What if we had a bank that focused on owner-managed businesses, champions of free enterprise? And our product offering and service offering was all geared towards these types of businesses. And we could add value through, like you guys do, through education and product offering that was really geared towards their needs. So that was the idea behind the bank.
Well, you're growing like wildfire. What portion of that growth would you attribute to the real estate part of your bank?
Yeah, so if you were to look at our portfolio, last year actually a fair bit, about 60% of our portfolio is what we call commercial industrial. And about half of the commercial industrial is owner-occupied real estate. So it's an operating company, business owner who's bought a building, leases it to the business. And then about 30% is what we'd call pure commercial real estate,
right.
investment real estate. And then 10% is residential mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
About 10% is residential mortgages.
We were visiting a few minutes ago before we started, and you were talking about all the education that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is really hard for realtors to understand is when they are an entrepreneurial business and they're practicing real estate, there's two sides to it. They can be an expert in real estate, but they may not be an expert in managing and running their business.
Sure, yeah.
So it sounds like you have some of those resources that could help them.
Yeah, and we run into that a lot of time. Attorneys. There's a difference between being an attorney and understanding how to run a law firm,
Right.
An enterprise. We deal with doctors, with dentists, and so yes, we recognize that as a need, and so we do three things kind of in the educational area, and we have an executive director of education, a lady named Pamela McQuaid, does a fantastic job. The first part is ongoing education for our bankers on how to run a business. Mm-hmm. So that when they meet with a business owner and they're talking about issues that the business owner is dealing with, they can be a resource or point them to a resource to help solve that problem. So we go through a bi-weekly, it's in a lunch and learn format, bi-weekly training. We have a curriculum, and we'll talk about how do you run a collections department? Mm-hmm. How do you manage a group of salespeople? Cybersecurity, all the things that business owners deal with. And over time, those bankers are going to accumulate some knowledge so that they can have a rich value-added conversation with the business owner. And then the second thing that we do is what's called our business speaker series, and it's once a month. It's on it's a virtual platform, and so we'll have on average, and this was different during kind of the Paycheck Protection training that we did, but we'll have 60 to 80 business owners and their key players accessing that. So from a business development standpoint, when we're out calling on business owners, our goal is to get them plugged into some of our training, and that's the easiest one for them to do. And it's a la carte training, so people get an email saying, hey, this month's training is this, and they can, plug into it or not. And also, we have a fairly large following on social media, on Facebook and LinkedIn and whatnot. So check us out on LinkedIn, connect to us on LinkedIn, and we post those speaker series training on social media. And then the third is one that we make a significant investment in each year, and it's called the TSB Academy, and it's structured like an executive MBA. It's 1 year, about 50 hours of classroom time. It's in person, and we have subject matter experts on all areas of running a business that provide training in different areas. And a lot of business owners love it, not only for themselves, but they have people, owner-managed businesses, you're either going to do two things if you own a business. At the end of the day, you're either going to build a succession plan. We provide training on how to do that. Or you're going to sell the business, and how do you prepare it to sell? Mm-hmm. And either of those things really need to start taking place 6 to 8 years before that event. Most business owners wait too long. And so, that was, our mission statement is to elevate the champions of free enterprise. And we elevate the champions of free enterprise by helping educate, as best we can, and use our platform as best we can to show appreciation for what they contribute. But we also elevate them through our education. So
that's terrific. Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate enough to know Morgan, Megan, Libby, Denise, mm-hmm. and they do a wonderful job.
They do.
Where do they generate their leads for those kinds of loans and refis that they're doing?
Well, that is a real special department within our organization, because they do so many things right and they're so productive. When you look at business development, the goal of any business development effort really should be that business comes to you.
That's
right?
Your goal, for sure.
That's your goal. You don't always start out that way. So we never had as an original business plan the idea of having residential mortgages, but we started in May of 2008. And if you remember what May of 2008 looked like, it was a mortgage crisis. Yeah. And so we had all these shareholders and customers and prospects trying to get a mortgage from somewhere. And our chief lending officer and founder, Chris Jones, and I were trying to do it. Big mess. And so we had, Chris had a good friend, a friend of his from college named Libby Smith, who had been on both sides of mortgage, both the wholesale side, and also she had her own mortgage business. So we were always on the phone asking her questions. How do you do this? How do you do this? And Chris came to me and said, why don't we just hire her? And I said, done. So we hired her. And
she's great.
And so initially, I think they got a lot of leads from our commercial bankers, because we're dealing with business owners. If you don't have W-2 income, mm-hmm. it's gotten harder and harder to get a residential mortgage. Right. And we deal with that daily in terms of underwriting tax returns and K-1 income. And so that was a natural fit for us. So in a lot of business from Libby's existing customers. But what I would say about them is they do such an amazing job. They get referrals. Mm-hmm. They do no marketing at all. Referrals from our bankers, and doing a good job. They're not out there beating the streets or anything like that. It comes to them, and they make a significant contribution to the overall profitability of our bank.
Yeah,
that's great.
And they're very nice ladies.
They are.
So what's sort of your wheelhouse in terms of the commercial size loans you can do, and the residential limits you may have versus when you just started, maybe?
Well, as a bank grows, it starts to accumulate more and more capital. And from a regulator standpoint, we have a legal lending limit based on our capital size. Today, our legal lending limit is somewhere around $20 million to any one borrower. We have an in-house limit that's roughly 80% of our legal lending limit. But in terms of our wheelhouse, I would say from very, very small, we love entrepreneurs. There's a lot of our customers who have revenues less than $1 million. Mm-hmm. And so small loans and helping people getting started. So that is a focus of ours. But I would say our average is $3-4 million in credit on the residential mortgage side. We've done very small to very, very large mortgages. Mm-hmm. We've never reached our in-house limit on any one residential mortgage. That's a big home.
Yeah.
But
could happen.
$3 or $4 million is kind of on average.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Maybe just talk about overall what kind of real estate services do you provide?
Yeah. So our focus is commercial industrial. It's a different risk profile than commercial real estate, and typically the types of real estate that we do are on the investor real estate side. We don't do a lot of construction development. We do some. It's usually existing cash flow. A lot of times it's investments that our business owners have. They want to buy a self-storage facility, or they want to buy an apartment, or they want to buy office warehouse stuff. That's typically the type of real estate that we do. There are banks out there that on the risk continuum maybe are a little bit farther out and are willing to take some speculative risk in terms of lease-up risk and construction management risk. We tend to stick to existing real estate.
Gotcha. I know you're proud of your team and the team you've built, and you should be.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that quality? What's your secret?
Well, I would say that in running a business, it really kind of starts with the mission, vision, and values. If you're trying to create what I would call a life-giving culture, those things have to exist, and the mission has to be, I think, come directly from the CEO, and it has to have a certain level of virtue to it that gives people a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Right.
And then the values have to be really critical, and we have a set of core values, and we have some ways that we reinforce that. It starts with your hiring process. Nobody's going to be 100% on the hiring process, but your coaching and your personnel development have to be driven by, hey, this is a set of core values that we have. If we're deviating, it's a coaching opportunity. So I think getting a good culture starts really at the top in terms of how you hire people, what your mission statement is, what your core values are, and then how do you incent people and coach people in that direction, and really make the core values a common topic in conversation. When we're doing performance reviews, we do things called quarterly conversations with each one of our team members, and we're talking about the values. We open every standing meeting that we have, whether it's a loan committee meeting, whether it's a weekly leadership meeting, promoting one of the values. Our value this month is growth. We value growth, and we value people who take ownership of their own career. And so somebody's going to be promoting a value in that meeting, and we usually give an example or an anecdote. It's kind of, to some people, it may be, it's kind of weird. But little things like that help build a culture.
Right.
So.
Speaking of growth, you've got 3 or 4 branches now.
Yeah, we have our first location was in the design district. We tend to go into trade areas that are underserved from a banking standpoint, but have high density of commercial industrial businesses. So our first, which is on in the design district on Irving Boulevard and Turtle Creek, if you think about the Stemmons corridor, high concentration of commercial industrial businesses. Our second location's in Garland. So you can think of what the Garland business trade area looks like. And then our third is in on Beltline and Webb Chapel, so the Valwood Business Park, that area, very high commercial industrial. We kind of joke that we know we've nailed the demographic. We've got the right location if we're within a quarter mile of a diner. But we're in the process of opening a new location. This will be our first location in Tarrant County. We're looking at northeast Tarrant County in the South Lake area, 114 in Kimball, and that'll enable us to call down into a lot of rich trade areas in the mid-cities and Fort Worth, obviously South Lake, Keller, Colleyville, Grapevine. So.
That's terrific. And that's coming this summer?
Yeah, sometime in the June, July time frame, we plan to open. Yes.
Okay.
So how do people find you? How do they connect with you if they would like to learn more? How do they find you?
Okay. So the other thing that I didn't mention is we do have a website, and if you go to texassecuritybank.com, that's another place where you'll find a significant amount of educational resources for business owners and their key player. So obviously check us out there. We're all over social media, so Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. We have a significant following on LinkedIn. So just look up Texas Security Bank, connect with us. Feel free to reach out to me. You'll find my email, my contact information on the website, and would love to be a resource. Even if we don't necessarily bank together, we love business owners. We love helping business owners. And if you have any questions, love to talk to you.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So we have a fun little game that I like to play with our
Yay.
with our guests.
Yay.
May I ask one quick
Oh,
question?
sure.
Do you have a least favorite board of director? We won't mention his name.
Just out of
right along.
But his initials?
Yeah, it might be.
No.
We may want to steer clear of that.
No, I love, hey, let me tell you something. I'm so blessed with the board of directors I have. I mean, it's a miracle. I mean, they all are super smart, get along, love each other. So.
That's amazing.
Yep.
It sounds like you've created just a very wonderful
So fortunate.
culture.
Yes,
Yeah.
So fortunate.
Okay, you ready for this?
Uh-huh.
Now you know all the answers, so don't worry that you're going to get it wrong, okay?
Okay.
We're going to play this or that. So you choose. Dog or cat?
Dog.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Phone call or text?
Depends who it is.
If you're talking to Jeff.
Phone call. Phone call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Facebook or Instagram?
I'm not on either of them.
Okay, so this next
LinkedIn.
Okay, so this next one probably doesn't play either. Instagram or TikTok?
Don't do that either.
You're like, what's TikTok? I'm kidding. Pool or beach?
Beach.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Football or basketball?
Football. Work
Work hard or play hard?
hard.
What's worse, laundry or dishes?
Laundry. I don't mind doing the dishes.
Well, you need to come to my house. Online shopping or shopping in a store?
Depends what it is. I like shopping, but probably online.
Okay. Passenger or driver?
Depends who's driving.
Loaded question.
If it's my wife driving, seriously, she's the best driver in the world. I like just chilling. And there's some people I don't like to be the passenger, and I'd rather be driving. But like with her, No stress. She's a better driver than.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Okay. Most important in a partner, intelligent or funny?
Funny.
Car or truck?
Because most funny people I know
Are
pretty
intelligent.
pretty
Yeah.
intelligent.
Car or truck?
Car,
Save or spend?
save,
Coffee or tea?
coffee.
And the last one, dine in or delivery?
Dine in.
That's a good one. You got them all
He
right.
passed.
You passed. Well,
Thanks a million.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Great.
Jeff, thanks.
So well.
Thanks
Lisa,
for
thank you.
coming. We
Appreciate it.
so appreciate you being here. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And be on the lookout for our next episode of Spilling the LT.